This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining. And it really is an honor and a privilege for me to be part of this group who each day a Mishna is being learned, Le'ilui Nishmas, to further elevate the soul of Mr. Eric Samson of blessed memory, Ezriel ben David. And certainly all words of Torah, all mitzvot, as there are so many programs that are being run, all these chesed programs that are being done, 10 to the power of 10, based on his birthday. All of this should continue to elevate the neshama of a person who has done so much to elevate so many others. We are learning Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, which lays down foundations for us to follow, as Eric did also lay down pathways for us to follow. And the way Pirkei Avot is structured is that we have each of these pairs of chachamim, of subsequent generations, learning from their rabbeim, from their mentors, and passing it on then to the next generation. And that is also what we are doing, and what really this whole program is about, which is taking lessons from the previous generation, from Eric and Zichron Livracha, and from Sheila. She should be healthy and well, and incorporating that into our lives and passing it on. So, Perek Aleph, the first chapter of Pirkei Avos, Mishna Yud, speaks about Shemaya va'Avtalion kiblu mehem. Shemaya and Avtalion received from them. Now, right away, I shared my screen. I hope you all can see it. That we have in Israel itself. This is not like off the planet. In Israel, we have the graves of Shemaiah and of Talion. It is up in the north of Israel, and that is where they are buried. You have the street sign there, Kever Shemaiah Vav Talion, that is where you will reach the Kever, the gravesite of Shemaiah and of Talion. There also is over there across from Moshav Safsufa, there is mikvah, ma'ayan. There is a mikvah which is from a ma'ayan, an underground spring, and that was, according to our tradition, that was al shem hatanaim Shemaya v'Avtalion. That is the mikvah that they would use when they would immerse in a mikvah. That is the mikvah that they would use. So this is a living Torah of ours that we are part of over here. And you go to Israel, you have no doubts about our roots and where we come from, and how this is the land that has been such a part of us for generations. Shmai and Avtalion were around the end of the Hashmonaim period of Hanukkah fame, and they were during the time of King Herod. And once again, if you go to Jerusalem, you go to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, you'll notice different sets, different sizes of bricks that are all along the Kotel, and the upper ones are the Herodian bricks. Shmai and Avtalion, that's very strange names, unusual names. And this really speaks to a great degree about an Eric Samson, in that Shmai and Avtalion, it speaks to the idea of Judaism being a meritocracy. Shemaiah and Avtalion, there are two different opinions. Everyone agrees that they are descendants of converts. And there are those that say that they themselves were converts, which really is astounding when we think about it. If we were to think of who is the most famous Talmudic Jew, then based on our college campuses today, we would probably say it's Hillel. Hillel is a person who's the most quoted, probably the most famous Talmudic rabbi that we have. And the Gemara, the Talmud in Yuma, tells this famous story of Rabbi about Hillel. Hillel was an impoverished person, and he used to work every day. Umishtake Petropik, he would earn a certain small coin from his hard work. And what would he do with that pittance that he had earned? Half of it would go to the guard of the Beit Midrash, of the study hall. One had to pay to go in. Presumably he was out in the fields and they needed security, something that we could relate to certainly these days. And the other half would go to supporting his family. And one time he didn't have enough to support himself, and he was not allowed in. They didn't allow Hillel into the Beit Midrash. What did he do? He climbed up onto the roof and was by this skylight they had over there, and he was listening, Kadeshi Yishma, Divrei Elokim Chayim, so he could hear the words of Torah. He could hear the words of this class. He could hear the words of the living God. Who was Hillel going to hear the shiur from, the class from? Mipi Shemaya Avtalyon. He was going to these converts. He was going to Shemaya and Avtalyon. They were the Rosh Yeshiva. They were the ones who were delivering the top level shiur. Then Hillel will soon see endangered his life in order to hear their words. It was stated that day was Erev Shabbos. It was a Friday. And it was Tkufot Tevet. It was the middle of the winter. And it started to snow and snow and snow. Shelag min hashamayim. They came back in the morning. Shemaiah said to Avtalyon, why is it so dark? They looked up and they saw Demut Adam Ba'aruba. They saw the form of a person who was there in the skylight. They saw someone had been trapped under the snow and was probably freezing to death, if not frozen to death. They pulled off feet of snow from him. Hirchitzu, they brought him down, they washed him, siku, they lit a fire, they desecrated the Shabbos, which of course, in order to save someone's life, is not a desecration of Shabbos, but it's the proper application of Shabbos. And they brought him back to us. And the Gemara says that if anyone says, I'm too poor to study Torah, they say, yeah, how about Hillel? So the great, great, great famous sage Hillel was studying from these converts, Shemaiah and Avtalyon. Again, some say they themselves were converts. And even though normally a convert, first generation, has not become part of the Sanhedrin, being that they were the most worthy, so therefore they were part of the Sanhedrin. And the Gemara later on tells us another story about Shemaiah of Avtalyon. Tanarabana Masa, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, on Yom Kippur. We know on Yom Kippur, Mare Kohen, we sing so beautifully about the vision, the view of the Kohen, Mare Kohen, as he would leave the Holy of Holies, and everyone would go and would accompany him, and they'd make a tremendous, tremendous celebration that he went in and came out unscathed, because during the time of the Second Temple, there were people who would pay their way in to receive the honor of being Kohen Gadol. They were not worthy of being Kohen Gadol, though, and therefore they would not always leave walking. They would not always survive the entry into the Holy of Holies if they were not worthy of doing so. Well, this Kohen Gadol did survive it, but we'll soon see was not on a level we would have hoped he would have been. It happened, the Kohen Gadol, this is the Gemara Yuma 71b. After he left the Beit HaMikdash, everyone was everyone was following him, accompanying him. When the people saw Shemaiah and Avtalyon, instead of gathering around the Kohen Gadol, they all circled and gathered around Shemaiah Avtalion, who were also accompanying him. But instead of the center of the crowd being the Kohen Gadol, it seems the center of the crowd became Shemaiah and Avtalion. At the end, Atu Shemaiah Avtalion left Turimine. They came to bid farewell to the Kohen Gadol. Amar Lahan, he said to them in a somewhat degrading manner, Yetum b'nei amamin l'shalom. You children of the nations, because again they were converts, they came from Sancheiriv. Let the children of the nations go in peace. That's how he bid farewell to them. Amrulei, they said to him, Yetum b'nei amamin l'shalom, da'avden uvda da'aron. Yes, we, the children of the nations, shall go in peace. We, the children of the nations, who are acting in an Aharon fashion. Aaron, we know, was Rodev Shalom, was always looking to make peace, to build the camaraderie and the warmth and the connection between people. So yes, we, the children of the nations, will go in peace. We who are acting like Aharon, like your predecessor, Aaron. V'lo yetu ba'aron l'shalom. But you, the actual descendant of Aaron, should not go in peace. Jelo avid uvda da'aron, because you are not acting in an Aharon fashion, putting down others. We're not allowed to bring up the past of a person, whether that person is a Baal Teshuvah, a person who was not involved in such savory activities and has left that behind, or if a person is a convert, we're not allowed to bring that up in order to put them down. So that is an introduction to the teachers of Mishnah Yud. Shemaiah and Avtalion, these two great sages, converts, but leaders of the nation, and the teachers of Hillel and Shammai, Kiblu Mehem, back to our Mishnah. They received the teachings from their Rabbeim, from their teachers. Shemaiah Omer, right? Yud Aleph, Mishnah 11, that is Avtalion's teaching. Our Mishnah, Mishnah 10, is Shemaiah's teaching. He would say, Ehav et hamilacha. A person should love the work. Love work, usna et harabanut, and one should despise the rabbanut, the high office. Ba'al titvada larashut, and do not make yourself known. Do not get too close with the authorities. So before we analyze each of these individually, normally each of them had a main theme of their teachings. And according to Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, the main theme, the connecting idea of these three teachings is your personal independence. Don't become dependent on others. As Geirim, we can understand, as converts, we can understand that these are people who forged their own path. They forged their own path, and they became themselves because of who and what they were, not because of my connection to him. It's not what you know, it's who you know. With them, it was what you know, not who you know. And therefore, maintain your independence and become that self-made person. And one of the things that had a tremendous impact on me was during the Shiva for Eric Zichrono Livracha, when I was talking to his wonderful partner in life. I was talking to his wife Sheila. She should be live healthy, and be well for many years and enjoy her beautiful family. She shared with me Eric's background and how he didn't come from wealth at all, and actually share with me some stories of just how impoverished the family was at certain points. And I really, to me, it had such an incredible impression on me of how a person does not become a victim of their circumstances. A person takes responsibility and moves forward. And an important factor in doing that and in being able to do that is having a certain independence. So let's see again in general, and then we'll deal with each of these individually. Ahavat malacha, one should love work, meaning be financially independent. You don't want to be dependent on others. You want to earn your own keep and know that thereby you can make your own decisions. You're not beholden to other people with everything that you do. Number two is sna et harabanut. That is, that if one is getting very close to the government, then all of a sudden, if you are very close to the government, then you will be forced into positions that you may not necessarily personally ascribe to, but you will be forced to adopt those positions because the person in power has adopted those positions and is demanding that all of those under him or her also adopt those positions. And we certainly, in our fragmented political world that we're living in today, we certainly have seen that and continue to see that a person will lose that independence in terms of making their own decisions and forging the path that they see as being the proper path. Lastly, al titvada l'rashut. Once again, that's either to powerful people or to the government. Once again, if you're going to be too chummy with those in power and feel the need to stay close with them, then you're going to be sacrificing your own independence, your own ability to forge your own path. And the way to greatness is when a person, as we mentioned before, in this meritocracy, when this person is able to choose their ways and to act accordingly in a proper, upright manner. I will just add that certainly we saw how Eric was close with whether it was Netanyahu or whether it was, saw pictures of him with Nelson Mandela and other African leaders. And he was a person that through his strength and generosity, so he was close with many of these world leaders, but at the same time, that did not compromise who he was and what he was all about. And what he was all about was about using the gifts that he had been given, the means that he had, to help so many others. Let's look at each of these individually. Ahavat hamalacha, a person should love work, meaning besides earning one's parnasa, earning one's honest livelihood, a person should love doing the work. We should love to be productive. We should love the fact that we are gainfully involved. The Gemara speaks about if one does not have anything to do, he comes to shi'amum. A person could start to go mad. We need to keep ourselves busy, occupied, and there is no indignity in any type of work if a person is earning a good, honest wage. The Gemara says, "Pishot nevilasa b'shuk va'al tistarech lebriot." A person should even take the job which was skinning the carcasses that one finds in the street, out in the marketplace, but don't need funds, don't need gifts from other people. I recently was reading a whole article, it's kind of humorous article, about a person whose job was cleaning out the porta potties at the sports stadiums. that once the games would start, they had to rush in there and start to clean out those porta potties in time for halftime, whatever it would be. And the person spoke about how some people say, "Oh, that's a job that you do," but he was very proud. He said, "Look, I'm supporting my wife, supporting my children. I've got a good salary. I've got good benefits." And I thought to myself, that's exactly what the Gemara says. If there is no indignity whatsoever in earning a good, honest living. And that, of course, grants the independence that a person wants to have. That's ahav et hamalacha. A person should love the work that he does. Usna et harabanut. And all of the honors, all of the platitudes, all the things that come along with that often come in life, a person should not be interested in that. Snat harabanut. We're taught in the parsha that we were just reading of the Torah readings that Joseph, died the youngest of all the brothers. Of all of the tribes, Joseph died the youngest. And that the high position that he had, that took away, that detracted from his life, from his vitality. There are some that explain these two together, which is that until now we've been addressing ourselves to judges, and therefore, or to rabbis, or to anyone. Ahavat hamalacha, love the work that you're doing, but don't get involved. A rabbi, love the teaching, love the mentoring, love the helping of others that you do. Usnat rabbanut, but sometimes the honors and the pomp and the circumstance that comes along with that one should sana. One should want to stay away from that. One should despise that. Lastly, va'al tidvada rashut, and do not become intimate with the authorities. Again, a person, we often say this, when it comes to the government, best to stay under the radar. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was an accountant, and he was saying that sometimes he'll tell people, even though you're giving a lot of tzedakah, don't list all the tzedakah you're giving. Why not? Because you're going to stick out. It's a red flag. And therefore they might start to then to investigate. They might start to audit you. And you never want to be audited. As straight as a person is, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time. And therefore, a person should try to stay under the radar. Stay under the radar. Of course, someone like Eric Zichron Levracha and Sheila Yibar L'Chaim Tovim were people who had such an overwhelming effect on the world, on the entire world. They were unable to stay under the radar as much as they did in a very private manner. There is so much that they did that it was basically impossible, I think, to keep it completely under the radar. But as we said before, that is, as Pirkei Avot is, it's teachings of the fathers. It's teachings that we get from the previous generations, and we then apply it forward and go forward with it. Certainly, Eric, Zachon Levracha, and Sheila give us a tremendous amount of inspiration and setting forth a path of how to live our lives in a way that it is there to help others and to make sure that our lives are lived in a way that it impacts and makes a difference. Everybody wants to make a difference, and to make sure that we are doing the things in our life that will make a difference for others around us. And that then is collectively going forward. And with that, we hope that it will usher in the period that we all await. It should bring Mashiach Tzidkenu. It should bring our Messiah. B'mheira v'yameinu. May it be speedily in our days. Amen. And once again, all of the learning this morning was and is the Ilay Nishmas, Ezriel Ben David, Mr. Eric Samson of blessed memory. And like I said, may all of the things he has done continue to be a merit for him and continue to serve as an inspiration for all of us. I thank you all for joining, And may we roll up our sleeves, those of us who are able to leave our rooms and not being quarantined COVID, may roll up our sleeves and make sure that we get to work and make sure that we accomplish as much as we are able to accomplish in our lifetimes. Thank you so much for joining, everybody, and a good day and a good Shabbos already coming up tomorrow evening.
Amen. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Frankie. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi Ciner. Shukar.
You're very, very welcome, everybody. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Very welcome.